The regular season is right around the corner, people. That's right, with just under a week left until opening day, it's time to break down every single team in baseball. We'll take a look at major roster changes, coaching staff additions or subtractions, and anything else that you might need to get set for the season. We'll be going backwards based on Fangraphs win projections, starting with number 30 and ending with number 1. Before we really dive in, I want to preface that Fangraphs projections are just that, projections. The Braves beat their projected win total by 10 in 2023. The Cardinals were 20 games worse than theirs. You really just don't know. This is just another way of splitting up all 30 teams, otherwise the video would be hours long. But I digress. Starting with teams 30 through 21, let's dive right in. First up at number 30 is the Colorado Rockies, projected to finish last in the NL West. Now this actually came as somewhat of a shock when I looked at the projections, and you'd be forgiven for thinking the A's will once again be the worst team in baseball. But according to Fangraphs, that distinction belongs to the Rockies in 2024. Dakota Hudson and Jacob Stallings headlined the major acquisitions for Colorado, and the word major is used quite judiciously here. I've documented why I'm high on Nolan Jones having a big year for the Rockies, but outside of him, there's not a lot of reason to believe the Rockies can beat their projection of 64 wins. They had the worst team ERA in all of baseball last year at 5.68, and it looks like that trend will continue in 2024. Not a lot to highlight for the Rockies. They continue to exist as a franchise. Sorry, Colorado. Coming in at number 29 is the Washington Nationals, projected to finish last in the NL East. Now, the world has been a strange place since October of 2019, and I'm not just talking about the world as a whole. The 2019 World Series champions have been nothing short of abysmal over the last 4 seasons. Washington has the worst record in all of baseball since the start of the 2020 season, and it looks like they'll be in baseball's cellar once again. Like the Rockies, the Nats' quote-unquote major signings include Jesse Winker and Matt Barnes, but there's not a lot else to highlight. James Wood figures to be part of the club in some capacity either late this year or next year, but the Nats really don't have anything going for them. Also, this sign that they had at spring training just shows you that they're really just an unserious franchise. I mean, it's pretty well known at this point, the harder you throw, the harder it is to hit. Next up at 28 is the Chicago White Sox, projected to finish last in the AL Central. For much of the offseason, the conversation around the White Sox was, will they trade Dylan Cease? And while the trade seemed unlikely for much of spring training, the White Sox finally dealt their ace to the Padres for a handful of top prospects. Cease will add that true ace to the Padres staff, and the White Sox can continue building for the future. 2023 was a tough year for Chicago, and it looks like that trend may continue in 2024. Much of Chicago's offense in 2024 looks like it'll run through Luis Robert, despite a few minor additions to the lineup. Of note though, I'd be interested to see if the White Sox can get the best out of Michael Soroka and Jared Schuster, who they acquired from Atlanta along with Nicky Lopez in the Aaron Bummer trade. Soroka was an all-star in 2019, but the well-documented struggles with injuries have halted what was a promising start to the big Canadian's career. His performance, along with the likes of Michael Kopech, will tell us if Chicago can beat their Fangraphs projection of 67 wins. Next on our list is the Oakland A's at 27th, finishing last in the AL West. I've talked about the A's off the field more than the product on the field, and for good reason. 2024 will be the last year the A's will be known as the Oakland A's. And it's among the biggest disappointments in all of sports that a team will be moved out of a city despite their performance on the field. The A's have been a playoff caliber team as recently as 2020, but a reluctance to open up the checkbook to not only fix the Coliseum or build a new stadium, but also pay players like Matt Olson, Matt Chapman, Marcus Semien, and Sean Murphy, among others, led to the A's fire sale that saw their core end up with new teams. That said, the A's will still field a major league team in 2024, and surprisingly, Fangraphs project that Oakland will win 72 games in 2024, a huge jump from last season that saw them lose 112. As far as player projections, Zach Geloff and Brent Rooker lead the A's offensively in WAR and WRC+, but there's not a whole lot else to highlight for the A's. Esteury Ruiz will likely steal upwards of 50 bases if he's healthy, and Miguel Andujar has had a nice spring so far, but I'd be hesitant to say anything good is going to come from the A's both on and off the field in 2024. On an even more somber note, hug an A's fan you know. The A's are the last East Bay professional sports team, And once their final series of the season wraps up, it'll be the end of an era in Oakland marred by billionaire greed. I've made videos about this before, but at the end of the day, John Fisher and the team brass are the only ones who stand to gain anything from the A's move to Las Vegas. Next up at 26 is the Kansas City Royals, projected to finish 4th in the AL Central. One of the busiest teams in the offseason, the Royals added a ton of new faces to a young team with some potential. I've highlighted Bobby Witt Jr. and his new contract, in addition to Vinny Pasquantino's potential for a breakout year. But the Royals also added players at virtually every position, including Adam Frazier, Hunter Renfroe, Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, Nick Anderson, and Will Smith, just to name a few. Witt and Pasquantino are certainly the headliners, but with all those new faces, it'll be interesting to see if the Royals can take a huge step forward in 2024. Fangraphs has them projected to finish 4th in the AL Central, winning 76 games in a crowded division. They did get noticeably better in the free agent market, and with Bobby Witt Jr.'s new contract keeping him in Kansas City for the next 11 years, the Royals can really build a young core around their talented shortstop. I'd say the projection of 76 wins feels about right, if not a bit optimistic. But then again, they play 162 games, so anything is possible even for a team that lost 106 in 2023. Only the A's lost more last season, but the Royals actually made an earnest attempt to improve in every facet of the game. Coming in at number 25 is the Pittsburgh Pirates, projected to finish last in the NL Central. For the first month or so of the season, it looked like the Pirates were going to shock some people and make a run at a playoff spot. But things just never materialized, and we were robbed of a full season of O'Neal Cruz, which I'm sure took a lot of wind out of their sails, pun intended. But with a new year comes a new opportunity for Brian Reynolds, Mitch Keller and company to take a huge step forward. Reynolds and Keller are now on longer-term contracts, so there's a young core materializing in Pittsburgh. Henry Davis has shown a lot of promise in spring training, and some under-the-radar acquisitions like Rowdy Tellez and the emergence of Jack Suwinski to go along with Cruz and company should give the Pirates a good opportunity to perform at least in the neighborhood of expectations. Fangraphs has them at 77 wins in 2024, a one-game improvement from last season. Suwinski and Reynolds figure to be Pittsburgh's biggest run producers this upcoming season, and I'd of course add O'Neal Cruz to that mix. We can't also forget about Gold Glove winner Ke'Bryan Hayes, and they may not challenge for a playoff spot, but I don't think the Pirates will be as much of a pushover as a lot of folks may have you believe. Next at number 24 is the Los Angeles Angels, projected to finish 4th in the AL West. When it comes to the Angels, any predictions or previews have to start with their new coaching staff. Ron Washington returns to the helm of a big league club for the first time since he managed the Texas Rangers, and after a thoroughly successful stint as the Braves' third base coach, Wash has a tall task on his hand. With a roster that now has a Shohei Ohtani-sized hole, the Angels can only hope that Trout stays healthy, Rendon actually takes an interest in playing, and the young talents like Nolan Schanuel, Logan O'Hoppe, Zach Neto, Patrick Sandoval, and Reed Detmers take a step forward in their development. They certainly have the right coaching staff to provide them with guidance and give them an environment to succeed. Fangraphs has them winning 5 more games in 2024 than they did in 2023, and for them to do that, they'll quite frankly need Rendon to act like he wants to play baseball for a living. Outside of one of the richest men in baseball, the Angels should look to find most of their production from the usual suspects, namely Mike Trout and Taylor Ward, along with Schanuel and O'Hoppe. I'd also keep an eye on newly slimmed down Miguel Sano, who by all accounts has looked solid in spring training. The pitching staff is still young, but Patrick Sandoval showed us he has a ton of potential. But the Angels' season, quite honestly, will come down to whether or not the veterans take the field on a nightly basis. They aren't getting any younger, and without Ohtani, things might look vastly different in Orange County this season. And it just so happens that they play in one of the toughest divisions in baseball, home to the last 2 World Series champions, along with the Seattle Mariners, who are anything but an easy team to beat. Next at 23 is the Detroit Tigers, projected to finish 4th in the AL Central. The Tigers are an interesting proposition, mostly because they play in such a wide open division. They won 78 games in 2023, and it looks like they'll produce a fairly similar season in 2024. For me, the biggest offensive focus for the Tigers is their young duo of Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green. Both guys figured to be among their better offensive players, along with the newly acquired Mark Canha. On the other side of the ball, we know what Tarek Skubal's going to do. The Tigers' hard-throwing lefty is among the nastiest in baseball, striking out around 11.5 batters per 9 in 2023. He also posted a 2.8 ERA with a 2.0 FIP in 15 starts, so there's potential there. But watch Casey Mize with some interest. He missed all of 2023 after undergoing Tommy John surgery in 2022, but he went first overall in 2018 for a reason. Fangraphs has the Tigers winning one more game this coming season than they did in 23, which to me sounds about right. The division is crowded and ripe for the taking. Maybe the young Tigers can have a run at it. Next at 22 is the Cincinnati Reds, projected to finish 4th in the NL Central. As far as breakout seasons go, only one team had more claim to fame than the Reds in 2023, and that team in Baltimore won 101 games last season. But if last season is any proof of potential for the Reds, then they surely have what it takes to be last year's Orioles in 2024. Led by Elly De La Cruz and his 5-tool talents, the Reds have every reason to feel like they can challenge the Brewers and the Cubs for the NL Central title. Add in Spencer Steer, Matt McClain, and Christian Encarnacion Strand, and the Reds have a ton of young talent with huge upside. Though they didn't bring back Joey Votto, they have enough of a youth movement to make up for it at the plate and in the field. Despite Noelvi Marte serving an 80-game suspension to start the season, the Reds' outlook is better than it's been in quite some time. At least, it should be. Fangraphs, however, might disagree with me. Their projections actually have them taking a step back from the 82 games they won in 2023. The pitching staff doesn't project to do all that well, but they should get Nick Lodolo back at some point early in the season, which bodes well as the Reds lefty makes his way back from a stress reaction in his tibia, which cut his 2023 short. It looks like Frankie Montas will get the ball on opening day, which might take some of the stress off Hunter Green and Graham Ashcraft as the Reds try and return to the postseason for just the second time since 2013. At number 21 and last for this video is the Milwaukee Brewers, projected to finish 3rd in the NL Central. Losing your manager is one thing, but losing him to a division rival has to be a huge gut punch for the Brewers. Still, Pat Murphy has a decent amount of talent to work with in Milwaukee. Though they won't have a bona fide ace atop the rotation with Corbin Burnes now in Baltimore, the Brewers still have quite a bit of good pitching in their ranks. Freddie Peralta will lead the Brewers rotation since Brenner Woodruff is going to miss most, if all, of the 2024 season. And it's wild to think that Peralta was a number 3 last season. He's now set to be the top guy on the mound as the Brewers begin a new chapter. Offensively, the Brewers will have many of the same guys as they did last season, and it'll likely be the same suspects producing the vast majority of the offense. It seems we forget pretty quickly that Christian Yelich is a former MVP. William Contreras is one of the best hitting catchers in baseball, on top of the new guy in town in Rhys Hoskins. The former Philly is a 30 homer per season guy, and Milwaukee will benefit greatly if he's able to get back to his best coming off a major injury. Fangraphs thinks they'll take a huge step back in the form of an 80-win season, 12 fewer than last year, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Brew Crew are right up there with the NL Central's best once again. That's all for this video. Make sure you tune in next time where we'll go through teams 20 through 11 ordered by their 2024 Fangraphs win projections. Let me know what you think about how each team's going to do based on their projections down in the comments below, and if you've made it this far, a like is greatly appreciated, and be sure to subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.